They vanished from a small trailer one ordinary morning, and the questions have only multiplied since. Where exactly were Lily and Jack in their last known hours? Who saw them? And why do the timelines still wobble? If you want to stay on top of every update, hit subscribe and ring the bell now. This story is still active, and every small piece of information matters. Court filings and police summaries released in recent weeks peel back parts of the investigation into the disappearance of 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan. Those documents show investigators tracing receipts, surveillance clips and phone records, re-interviewing family members, and examining small but potentially crucial items. A torn pink blanket, an impression of a small boot, and the last confirmed footage of the children at a Dollarama. What emerges from the paperwork is a picture of painstaking police work mixed with the messy reality of human memory, bedtime times that shift, eyewitness accounts that don't match, and routine errands that suddenly become key pieces of a timeline investigators must reconstruct. The RCMP's approach has been methodical. Collect evidence, verify it, and only then draw conclusions. That careful approach has left the public hungry for answers, but it's the only path that stops rumors from turning into false leads. From the court files, we learn there were 5 separate formal statements taken from Brooks Murray, the children's mother. In those interviews, she described household dynamics, the role of her partner Daniel Martel, and what she remembers about the day the children disappeared. In one account, she portrays Martel as an involved figure who would help when she felt overwhelmed, someone the children listened to. She explicitly told investigators there was no physical discipline. Other sections in the filings are redacted, leaving gaps that the public naturally tries to fill with speculation. But the documented interviews, even with redactions, show investigators thoroughly questioning the home life, because in any missing child inquiry the family's routine, relationships and stresses are central to understanding what could have happened. Turning routine errands into an investigative timeline is painstaking work. The filings set out where the family went and when, visiting relatives to do laundry, a gas stop, a grocery run, and a trip into New Glasgow the afternoon before the children were reported missing. Police used receipts, video timestamps, and other objective records to test the memories given by family members. That's how solid timelines are built. You don't rely on memory alone. A receipt timestamps a purchase. A surveillance clip fixes a location. Phone tower data can show when a device was in a specific area. When Brooks Murray later adjusted the time she put the children to bed, first saying 9 p.m., then 10 p.m., that small shift opened or closed potential windows of opportunity and changed how investigators prioritized certain leads. It's not that people lie. Memory is fallible, especially after days of trauma. But in court and in police work, those details are crucial. Even a 30-minute discrepancy can be the difference between discovering a fresh lead and chasing a cold one. One moment in the public files stands out. A midnight call from Brooks Murray to the RCMP reporting that the children's biological father, Cody Sullivan, might have taken them to New Brunswick. Police immediately checked that claim and confirmed Cody had not taken the children. Multiple checks and even direct interviews placed him in Nova Scotia. Investigators then expanded their search for video evidence to the Cobequid Pass toll area and surrounding highway camera feeds to rule out a crossing into New Brunswick during the relevant window. Those are the painstaking, unglamorous tasks of an investigation. Follow the tip, verify the alibi, and then either close that path or pursue the next one. Those cameras did give investigators one fixed anchor. Surveillance footage captured Lily and Jack at a Dollarama in New Glasgow at 2:25 p.m. the day before they vanished. That clip matters because it's a concrete, time-stamped record of the children's last confirmed public sighting. Investigators can use that anchor to build outward. Who was with them? Where did they go next? Which cars were in the area? With every clip checked and every receipt verified, the RCMP can shrink the window of uncertainty. But the days following the Dollarama sighting turned the case into a puzzle of small, sometimes contradictory pieces. 2 physical items recovered by searchers have become focal points. First, a pink blanket that relatives say belonged to Lily was found less than a mile from the home in one spot in the woods and, separately, a piece of the same blanket turned up later in a trash bag at the end of the family driveway. For the family, those pieces are heart-wrenching and personal. For investigators, they are material evidence to analyze. The questions flow quickly. How did the blanket end up where it did? Was it accidentally carried by a child, deliberately discarded, or placed by someone? Forensics can test fibers, look for DNA, and try to reconstruct whether the blanket's placement was recent or older. But time and exposure complicate those tests. Items left outside degrade, and wildlife can move them. Still, the blanket's presence at two separate locations means it cannot be ignored. Second, an impression of a small boot was cast and taken to a lab for testing. One investigator's note in court files mentioned that the boot print was consistent with a size associated with Lily's footwear, but matching size alone doesn't equate to identification. Footwear impressions are useful in building circumstantial patterns if they align with other evidence, video footage putting a person near that trail, or multiple prints creating a path. Investigators stressed care in interpreting the print. A single impression can point you toward a search area, but it can't by itself tell you who took it or when, especially in an environment where many people have walked the trails over time. A central tension in public reaction has been the RCMP's handling of initial assessments. At first, police said the disappearance was being looked at under the Missing Persons Act and that they did not yet have reasonable grounds to treat the case as criminal. That phrasing has frustrated many. In the public imagination, 2 young children gone without trace sounds plainly criminal. But investigators must work from evidence. The files show that in the early days investigators leaned heavily into ruling out options, interviewing family, friends, and associates, asking for phone and bank records, and conducting polygraph tests to eliminate possibilities. Polygraphs are a controversial tool and not proof of innocence or guilt, but in this case several family members, including Martel, Brooks Murray, and the biological father, underwent tests that investigators documented as indicating truthful responses. The purpose, as stated in the filings, was to rule out the possibility that someone close to the children had caused them harm, a painful but necessary step. That exhaustive, methodical grind extended beyond interviews to include digital and physical warrants. Investigators requested call logs, GPS data, banking transactions, and video from school buses and toll booths. They gathered more than 5,000 video files from private cameras and dashcams in and near the search area. Those requests are routine in complex missing persons work now. Our lives leave digital traces, and those traces can either support or undermine a given narrative. Seizing those records requires judicial approval, which takes time. The court filings released to media were heavily redacted for reasons investigators said were meant to protect the integrity of ongoing lines of inquiry. That redaction has its own consequence. When people read summaries that hide details for legal reasons, rumor and speculation rush in to fill the gaps. The search itself was massive and costly in human effort. Within days, more than 160 personnel were involved: local policing units, search and rescue volunteers, forensic teams, K-9 units, and aerial support. Ground teams used grid searches across rugged terrain, carrying out systematic sweeps of woodlets, ditches, and known trails. Divers checked waterways and shoreline areas. In forested country, especially after adverse weather, the challenge grows. A single rain can wash away tracks, and dense underbrush hides small items that could be crucial. The scale of the search reflected the seriousness of the effort. The scale also reflected the high stakes for family and community. Public involvement has been relentless. The case drew tips from across the country and beyond, and community vigils were held. Those vigils are not just symbolic. They keep momentum and attention on the case. At the same time, social media amplified theories, sometimes veering into harmful speculation and racialized comments that targeted family members. Investigators warned that unverified public theories can mislead volunteer searchers and divert official resources. They also emphasized that even small tips can be valuable. An offhand observation, a dashcam clip tucked away on a hard drive, a memory recalled later. That's why the RCMP has urged anyone with information to reach out through official channels rather than posting allegations online. Amid the process and the public outcry, the human toll is obvious. The family has been forced into the public eye, their grief and their private life examined by strangers. Neighbors have been interviewed multiple times. Volunteers have given hours and emotional energy to combing the woods. Investigators have had to balance urgency with the procedural steps that preserve evidence for the day when the case may reach court. The files illustrate that investigators are not content with broad theories. They want facts they can verify, timestamps that match, fibers that link to surfaces, GPS pings that place a phone on a specific road at a precise moment. Those are the things that lead to confident answers. What can we learn so far? First, timelines matter, and they are fragile. People remember events differently, and investigators rely on hard records to correct those memories. Second, small pieces of evidence, like a child's blanket or a single footprint, can reshape searches, but only if they are coupled with corroborating data. Third, digital evidence is central. City and highway cameras, phone tower pings and transaction logs can reconstruct movement in ways human memory cannot. Finally, public cooperation, calm, factual, and directed to police, is more helpful than speculation that spreads fear. The case is unresolved, and that is the brutal truth. Court filings and public statements show the RCMP continues to pursue every avenue: forensic testing on seized items, analysis of thousands of videos, and follow-up on hundreds of tips. Investigators repeatedly stress they have not ruled out any scenario under the Missing Persons Act, and they encourage anyone with information to come forward. For those following the case, that means patience, but also vigilance. Something small, reported at the right time to the right people, can sometimes turn a cold trail into a lead. If you have anything, a video clip, a dashcam recording, a memory from that weekend, share it with investigators through official channels. This case shows that truth rarely erupts fully formed. Instead, it grows out of many small pieces that fit together. For Lily and Jack, each piece matters. We will keep monitoring official updates and bring factual, calm reporting to every new development. Until there are verified answers, the work goes on. If you can help, contact the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit or Crime Stoppers with any tips. And if you care about responsible coverage, subscribe here and turn on notifications. We'll keep following this story carefully and respectfully as it unfolds.